This episode of the Ageless and Awesome podcast is sponsored by the Radiant Reset Hormone Detox Guide for Perimenopausal Women. As a woman in the modern world, our hormones are taking a battering. They're impacted by the food we eat, the toxins we're exposed to, such as when we eat out of plastic takeaway containers, or even worse, reheat food in them. Please don't do this. If you're handling FPOS receipts, filling the car with fuel, eating non-organic produce that hasn't been washed effectively, plus so much more things add to our toxic load every day. Even though our bodies are designed to effectively manage toxins, they haven't evolved as quickly as our toxic world has, unfortunately. So our body does need support. Symptoms such as stubborn weight gain, fatigue, disrupted periods, irritability, and gut health issues can be a sign that you'd benefit from a gentle detox. And that's why I developed the Radiant Reset Hormone Detox Guide for Perimenopausal Women. This free guide has an abundance of information to get you started on your very own DIY detox. And if you'd like to upgrade to VIP, it's only $47 for a limited time. I used to sell this program for $247. The upgrade gives you the recipes, including plenty of plant-based options, the meal planner, the shopping list template, the video workshop, and so much more. Click the link in the show notes to learn more now. Take care of your hormones. They are a critical part of your health as a woman. Hi, I'm Susie Garden, and this is the Ageless and Awesome podcast. I'm an age-defying naturopath and clinical nutritionist, and I'm here to bust myths around women's health and aging so that you can be ageless and awesome in your 40s, 50s, and beyond. The Ageless and Awesome podcast is dedicated to helping women through perimenopause and menopause with great health, a positive mindset, and outrageous confidence. Hit subscribe or follow now, and let's get started. Hello, gorgeous one, and welcome to Q&A Thursday with me, Susie. And this week I'm focusing on a weight loss question. Interestingly, the research shows us that in spring is the most popular time for people to work on their weight. And the thinking behind it, this is actually backed up by research, and the thinking behind it is that people are forward thinking through to summer. They've just come out of winter, and often, and I absolutely do this as well, in winter there's a lot more sort of comfort food, for example, and that people tend to eat a little bit more lighter as the weather improves and the weather gets warmer. And so, research shows that spring is the most popular time for people to go on weight loss programs and to work with with themselves, I guess, or with a professional on weight loss. And so I figured now might be a good time to just talk about a few myths with regard to weight loss. And one that I thought I would deal with today, which I thought was really interesting actually, is that you should eat more in the morning and less as the day goes on. And I think there's a saying, something along the lines of eat like a king at breakfast, a prince at lunch, and a pauper at dinner, right? So bigger meal at breakfast, quite small meal at dinner time. And it kind of, if you think about it logically, that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Because assuming you're not a shift worker, not doing night shift, you would think, well, it makes sense that you would have more calories in the morning because you're going to be actually moving your body, you're going to be thinking, you're going to be doing things rather than having a big meal just before you go to sleep where you're not actually doing anything much that's going to burn fuel. So, and you can see that this is feeding into that calories in, calories out model. And this was just, I guess, accepted as a norm, I guess. And I believe there has actually been at least one study that supports this theory. Specifically, I'm talking for weight loss, so that eating more calories in the morning and fewer at night potentially could be helpful for weight loss. It has been quite a belief, and you might be sitting there thinking, actually, yeah, that's what I thought too. However, there is I think it's a fairly new term. I haven't heard much about this, a fairly new field of study about the right time to eat. And this kind of new field is called chrononutrition. So chrono, nutrition, chrono meaning time, of course. And the idea is that every cell in our body follows a circadian rhythm. So it makes sense that nutrition at different times of the day can affect the way we metabolize and absorb nutrients, right? It kind of makes sense. However, there's actually been some proper research done on this, and quite a major new study. This was back in like 2022, was published in a journal called Cell Metabolism. And what they found, and they were looking at healthy people, so people that didn't have any medical health conditions. However, they were obese. They met the criteria for either being obese or overweight. And they studied these people. They got them, it was what they call a crossover trial. So they split them into two groups, and then halfway through the trial, they swapped over what those people were doing. So if the people in these groups were either doing a larger breakfast and a smaller dinner, or a smaller breakfast and a larger dinner, and lunch remained the same for both groups. So each of the groups, when they do a crossover like that, it takes into account the differences between people. So if you got a different response, it means like, oh, there's something else going on. But when you've got the same people doing both of the options in the trial at different times, that gives you a pretty reasonable kind of outcome, that it means that, what you're testing is actually correct, or you're proving your hypothesis, so to speak, if you're talking in research talk. So interesting, this new study found that the larger meal in the morning could help manage appetite during the day, but it had absolutely no effect on weight loss. Absolutely none. The weight loss between both groups, no matter what option they were doing, whether they were having the bigger breakfast and the smaller dinner, or the smaller breakfast and the bigger dinner, their weight loss was exactly the same. And it did not stimulate their metabolism at all. And I've got to admit, I was a little surprised about that, because again, there's this logical thing that you think, well, if I'm having a big meal and then going to bed, I'm going to be, storing more of that away as fat because I'm not doing anything. But the study found that, there was no difference in metabolic activity, in blood glucose, in fat in the blood. So, it didn't matter when the food was consumed during the day, because the body dealt with it in exactly the same way. There was no kind of circadian influence on how that energy was burned, I guess. And so I found that quite fascinating. And I hope you have found that fascinating as well. And perhaps that might kind of make you think about how you're approaching food differently. I know when I work with women in weight loss, they're often surprised, because the portion sizes that have been scientifically calculated for them are generally a smaller portion in the morning, a little bit bigger at lunchtime, and a very slightly bigger portion at dinner time. Of course, if there is hunger, then I always do increase portion sizes at the appropriate meal to make sure that the hunger doesn't happen, because you never want to be hungry when you're doing weight loss. So there's another myth I'm going to debunk today, is if you're doing any kind of weight loss program and you're starving, then your body is going to shut down weight loss, because our body is built for survival, and if it doesn't understand that we're not in a famine. So if it's getting signals saying I'm hungry, and you're not actually attending to that, then your body can really slow down its metabolic functions so that it's conserving energy just in case the next meal is not happening imminently. So something too to be very careful if you're looking for a weight loss program is that you're not going to be hungry. And particularly I find women in perimenopause and menopause, you want to be feeding. You don't want to be starving. You want to be really nourishing your cells. You want to be getting all of those beautiful nutrients, particularly the plant phytochemicals that are going to be really nourishing your cells, making your skin glow, helping your brain operate properly, managing your mood, all of the things that we need at this time of life. So there's 2 myths. I actually was only going to do one, but there you go. There's 2 myths kind of debunked, which I actually found quite cool. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this short, sharp ep. If you have a question that you'd like to submit for Q&A Thursday, then please feel free. There's a link to contact me in the show notes. And if you are thinking about, maybe it's time to think about summer, think about shedding that winter layer, which many of us kind of get and during those winter months, then why don't you book in a time to chat with me and we can talk about whether my program is right for you, particularly if you're in your 40s or 50s and if you have complex chronic medical conditions, even if you've tried everything. Let's have a chat and I'll tell you if my program will work for you or whether I think it's not quite the right time or not quite the right program for your needs. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great weekend and I'll be back next Tuesday for a full episode. Thanks so much for joining me today on the Ageless and Awesome podcast. If you like today's episode, please make sure you click the little plus button if you're on Apple Podcasts or the follow button if you're on Spotify so that you get each new episode delivered to you every week. If you like free stuff, then head to the show notes and click the link to receive my free Radiant Reset Hormone Detox Guide for perimenopausal women. Or if you'd like to continue the discussion, head over to Instagram and DM me at Susie Garden Wellness. I'd love to connect with you.